Have you ever failed? I mean, like really failed, like made such a huge misstep that you thought your life was over? Well, the reality is we make mistakes every day. And it's not so much in are you going to make the mistake? It's more in how are you coming back? That's what we're talking about today. I have an amazing guest who was faced with serving 5 years in prison, giving up a career as a professional ball player, and how through all of this, he got on a path to redemption, to growth, to personal humility, and more importantly, on delivering impact through the lessons that I learned. We're here today to let you know that as a leader, business owner, and human being, you're going to make mistakes. And it's that comeback, not the setback, that matters most. I'm Clara Capano, and this is Clarity in Action. Welcome to Clarity in Action. This is the show where we have real conversations that are going to challenge your perspectives and drive real action. So if you are tired of holding back and you're ready to make bold moves, this is the show for you. Join us as we are going to take you from confusion into clarity. Welcome back, everyone. We have a great episode today of Clarity in Action. I'm really excited for this one. I heard this man speak at another event and I was like, we got to get him on. You know, one of my very favorite quotes is that your past should be a place of reference and not residency. And I think that there is nobody that this could pertain to more than our next guest, who is a former professional athlete, and kind of the unfortunate claim for fame is from the the jailhouse to the bullpen, or the jail pen to the or from the bullpen to the jail pen. And he was spent some time doing some time, and we're gonna pull back the blinds on these and kind of talk about some of the myths, the mystery, and more importantly, the lessons that we learned. So Brandon Puffer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Claire. I'm very excited to be here. It was from the bullpen to the state pen.
There you go.
And so, yes. Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be great. And I just think there are so many lessons. People think that something bad happens to them and their life is over. We have that moment like we did when we were teenagers of, oh my God, I got dumped. My life is over. And here it is you really took something quite challenging, horrific, and it could be tragic, and you managed to turn it into something profitable, personal, professional, and impactful to not only your life, but the lives of the people that you're impacting. So I would love to just kind of kick it off. We all have these moments of clarity, sort of what was your moment of clarity that you realized things have got to change. You got to start showing up and doing things differently.
Yeah, Claire, that's a great question. And there was probably a few times through my life where it was there. It was kind of knocking on the door of, hey, bud, like this stuff you're doing off the field, and your hurts and your habits and your hangups, the way you're showing up for people is not beneficial to what you're trying to do. And you're squandering a pretty good gift and, the baseball career and things of that nature. And so, unfortunately for me, it didn't come until I actually came out of a jury trial, got my sentence. They closed the bars on my cell, and I literally faced a big part of my life. And I just reached out and surrendered everything to God and said, this is where I've got myself. Like, I have tried every which way. I had so many opportunities. I came from a good family. I had the baseball career, just all these things. And it was like, gosh dang, like, why didn't I pay attention to these warning signs sooner? And I think that's a big reason why I do share so openly and transparently, is like, it didn't have to get to that moment. It could have been some of the warning signs that, the warning signs pop up on our dashboard. It's like, we'll ignore those until the thing blows up on you. And that's really what happened in my life. I had warning signs all the way along the way. And then it really blew up on me in that moment. And that is literally where I finally felt a little bit of peace, which is odd because I'm about to face this 5-year prison sentence. And how the heck am I going to get through this? And but at the same time, I just had this moment of clarity, like you said. And it was like, no matter what comes ahead, you're going to walk through this thing, and your faith is going to see you through, and your family and all your support. And so that was kind of the moment for me.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful. One of the things that you said is in that moment when, the cell door closed and you're like, well, I got myself here, and I think that we have to acknowledge that and bring that together. One of the things that you brought up is, you had this great family, you had this amazing career, and from the outside looking in, man, you had the American dream.
Yes.
But you mentioned warning signs. I like to think about this as also there was something else going on internally. There was a whole other story. So, what was really going on inside of you, even though it was masked by this perfect outside visage?
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I now call that the God shaped hole. And I grabbed everything in life and tried to stuff it in there. Like, what am I missing? Is it, and I also had a family history of addiction and things of that nature. I had some traumas, as we call them now. I didn't know what they were called, but I had sexual abuse when I was young a couple different times. And so, back then I was just, hey, stuff that down. That's no big deal. It's something that happened. And those things really started showing up in my life. And I'll be honest, Claire, still didn't really recognize or pull those layers back until my time incarcerated, where I was like, okay, at first it was just like, you're an alcoholic, you can't drink, you make stupid decisions. Well, at that point, it was like, no, there's a lot more that goes into all this. And so just the way I was showing up with those traumas, I always, encourage people like, I know you don't think it's a big deal, but you got to go back and heal that little Brandon, that little Claire. Like if you don't, it's going to keep showing up. And so I feel like just trying to numb those feelings and thoughts of not wanting to feel them. And then it just continued that way throughout my life. And no matter how many good things I had, to your point, wonderful mom, woman of faith. My dad got sober when I was in high school, gave his life to the Lord. I mean, I just had it. My brother, awesome. We're best friends. To your point, like American dream. In 2004, you mentioned San Diego. I got to play for the Padres, close to home, Petco Park on the beach. And it's just like nothing I did brought like peace and joy. It was all like anxiety around, okay, now earn it and go get the next thing. And just chasing. I guess the word I'm trying to use here is I was just always chasing whatever was next. And so I think when I had that time to really sit down and go, all right, man, the career, you're not chasing that. That's not happening right now. The family's not here. What do you have? And it's like, well, I have myself that I have to come to terms with. And I have this relationship in faith that I've been kind of lukewarm on most of my life. And so that's really where that began. And I'll be honest, I tell people all the time, like prison ministry began day one for me. I walked it out trying to encourage people and it wasn't fun. I mean, it was a miserable experience in terms of the things you see and what happens. And I always tell people the worst part is just not being able to touch your family, just hug and love them and reach out to them when you want to. But it was what I needed at the time. And so it really kind of shaped and molded me for kind of the next steps and where we show up now.
Yeah, for sure. So you bring this up that, when you stepped out of prison, you had this new chapter, this new opportunity. You mentioned in your talk that prison brought you freedom. Talk a little bit about that and what you mean by that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really believe, and this still applies to me, and it reminds me of kind of the way I've been thinking the last week or so. I've been in some stressful situations, and it's like, I firmly believe that you can be absolutely free in your mind, locked up in chains in an 8x10 cell. I've been there. I've done it. As well as you can be locked up in prison in your mind in the free world. Just everyday life and the stresses and the anxieties of it. And I still have to really check myself. I was really looking forward to this today because it's been a little while since I shared. And I've been in my own head for a little while. I told my wife, I said, I need to give it away today. I need to talk about it because I'm in my own head. Mm-hmm. So that's what I meant by that. It's just like I found peace and freedom and joy. Happiness can be taken away. It comes and goes. It's fleeting. Peace and joy and happiness, it's there. You just got to tap into it. And so found it in the oddest place in that prison for 3.5 years. And then it just carried over. And when I walked out, I really started my life over 100%. Like didn't have any of the funds left from baseball, just like fresh start, like what's next? And it was just baby steps. And so to your point, the very first step was accountability. I did this, my choices, my decisions. And as I'm encouraging people that have been in some trouble or gone down some paths, it's like the first thing you have to do is own it. Own it 100%. And then you have to humble yourself and start putting one foot in front of the other and realizing, hey, Brandon Plover, you're not walking out of this place the big bad ball player anymore. You're starting over and you need humility and you need all these things. And so I think that helped building relationships a little more authentically, I took some jobs that, were probably a little humbling for me based on my former career, but were great and formed relationships and taught me so much. So yeah, the redemption part is the fun part, but I had to go through a lot of soul searching and a lot of time alone to get there.
Yeah. You know, I want to kind of unpack this a little bit more. What you said is, we all can live in these prisons. It doesn't have to mean that we're, in an actual prison. I do one of my keynote talks is called Doing Time. And I talk about how I lived in prison for over half my life. And the idea is I created this prison by the expectations, the limiting beliefs, all these standards that I put on myself. And I think there's so many of us that do that. And I want to go more into this idea of the power and the importance of owning it, the personal responsibility, and tying that to focusing on what we can control. These
Yeah.
things were done, and you couldn't control that you had alcoholism in your family. Like, now you're here, you're stepping out. You've got to take the ownership. You've got to
Yeah.
focus on what you can do. So maybe dive into a little bit more and help the listeners understand the true power of ownership.
Oh gosh, it is. As I said, step one, especially when it comes to recovering from a really difficult time. And here's the deal, right? There's some of these things that we chose, right? I said that I chose this. I made this decision. I have to own that, and I'm accountable for it. But then some of the stuff I shared with you, Clara, was I didn't choose it. I didn't choose sexual abuse when I was young, as a lot of people have been through. I didn't choose alcoholic father. I didn't choose that, but where that comes in is my choice is how am I going to respond to that, right? Am I going to perpetuate the cycle, which I did for a long time, or am I going to put a stake in the ground and go, no, this is not how I want to live anymore. And I don't have to live that way with these generational curses or behaviors or whatever the case may be. And so again, owning that of like, yeah, stuff happens to everybody. And I'm not making light of anyone's stuff. That was serious stuff for little young Brandon, and everything people go through is serious, but you don't have to stay there. You don't have to, as you said, do time on that, but it takes work. I mean, I think that's the important part. I don't know if too many people can just snap their fingers and go, you know what? That happened. I'm moving past it. And I just never took the time to do it when the hustle and bustle of life was happening. And so to your point, I kind of admitted this to you earlier. I've been doing some time in my mind the last couple of weeks, and it's been a while. I'm like, my wife will sometimes be like, have you talked to Coach Puff Positive today? And I'm like, I don't know that guy. Who's that? But it's just another example of, this redemption and all these great things that have been restored to my life, and things that I prayed and just only dreamed of when I was locked up. Now they're there. And I'm like, I'm stressed about that. And I don't want to do that. And this is too much. And it's just wild how the power of that mind can just take over and just go, look, you have so much to be upset about and anxious about, and everyone's pulling you different directions. And it's like, man, I sat in a cell thinking I could just have freedom. If I could just go outside, I can do that anytime right now. But sometimes what I choose to do is dwell on the
Exactly.
little things that are bothering me.
And
So
we live in that prison. And right now,
yeah,
we have the freedom. We have the freedom to get up, to move, to do these things,
yes.
And again, it's like you said, how are you going to respond to these? So I think that's really powerful. As a high performer, I love to start my day with two critical things: one, time with my dog, and two, coffee. And not just good coffee, but great coffee. I am proud to have Fetch Coffee Roasters as a sponsor for Clarity in Action, not only because they have great coffee with fun names such as Muddy Paws and Squirrel, but also for every bag of coffee that they sell, they donate $1 to helping dogs in need. I mean, how much better could it get than that? In fact, they've raised over $25,000 in their local communities. So go over to fetchroasters.com and grab your coffee and share some love with some dogs in your community too.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
like I numbed it. For me, it was with food, but, we all have these things, and we have to be honest enough with ourselves to say, okay, enough of this, take back that control. And we have the right, we've earned the right to be here. We have our life in front of us. And like you said, it doesn't matter where you came from. That chapter is already done. Let's go forward. And you have the ability to write the next chapter and to live the book that you want to write about your life.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. That's awesome.
So you do a lot of speaking, and you really work not only with adults, but you do a lot with kids, teenagers,
Yep.
and helping to impact them. And I would love to ask is, when you're sitting down talking to especially these younger minds, what is a lesson when you can go back and look at younger Brandon? What is a lesson that you wish someone would have taught you?
Yeah, I think there's several, and I think I mentioned I have a role. I have a nonprofit as a youth and high school baseball program. So you're exactly right. I spend a lot of my time coaching, which leads to mentoring, which leads to just speaking into young men's lives. And there's several. One in particular is just not being afraid to admit when you're struggling. I mean, I think one of my biggest downfalls was, and still is actually, is when everything was coming to a head with my life and it was falling apart at the seams. It was a disaster. I was a leader on my teams and I was, a chapel lead, all these different things that caused me to think, I just can't tell anybody. I got to just act like everything's great. I'm fine. I'm good. And if I would have just, I know this now, if I would have just reached out, and I have friends like this now, hey man, I'm struggling. Like,
Mhm.
pray for me, or I'm being a knucklehead, or, whatever, my thoughts aren't good. Then so many people, it gives them the freedom to go, oh yeah, me too. Like, you're not the only one by any means. And let me come alongside you and help, rather than this fake kind of persona we put on of like, I've got it all going on, I'm good. And then we're really just struggling behind closed doors inside. It's that's the number one. Like, guys, if you're struggling, you're going to be led to believe that, you're the only one that thinks like this. And what will people think of me? Get it out there. It's not to, maybe not to everyone, but have a few people that you can count on to go, hey, I'm really struggling. I need some help right now. And people are just so gracious to want to do that. That's certainly part of it. And then, as I mentioned before, just accountability of your actions. Like, hey, you messed up. It's okay. It doesn't define you, but let's move forward. Let's learn from it, admit it, and move forward. And then I think another big one, just to cap it off, is humility. Gosh, I needed so much humility in my life. And
Mhm.
I get reminders all the time. And the hard part, I tell these guys, I'm like, there's only two types of people in the world. There's humble, or those who are going to be humbled. And so I got humbled and still do sometimes. And y'all just humility, like just
Absolutely.
humility. Look, this whole world is not revolved around us. It's not about me. It's about who we can show up for and how we can help with a purpose every day. And that's where I find myself, the most, I guess, fulfilled is when I'm giving away to other people, when I have a purpose. As soon as I get into me mode, I'm not good. And it's like, I can't wait to get on the clear and share my story so I can get out of myself for a little while. And it's
Exactly.
very helpful. I just try to share that with folks.
Yeah, I think, I really hope people are listening to some of the things you're saying, this idea of being vulnerable and asking for help. I think, especially since so many of the people that are following the show are leaders or business owners, they think they have to have that, oh, everything's great. And they are so afraid. And I know I went through this horribly. It's one of the things that led to my big burnout is I felt that if I shared my weaknesses, if I said, oh, I need help with this, especially after the birth of my son, I was struggling with postpartum and I was like, I can't tell this to anyone because they're not going to trust me. They won't want to work with me. And I
Yes.
just crumbled and crumbled. And it wasn't until I started sharing my story, it's had the same exact dynamic. People were like, oh, that's me too. And
Yeah.
there was so much peace, so much happiness in not feeling great that other people were suffering, but knowing that I wasn't alone. And I think we have to change that mindset that vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's actually a pillar of strength.
Absolutely. That is huge. I think that is so important to just continue to drive home, because I agree with you. I thought, here I am being selfish about my own stuff. And I mean, literally the night I got arrested, I share this story. I don't know if you've heard it, where I was driving in to the ballpark and made the decision in my life and in my mind that I would go out that night, which at that point I already knew was not ever a good decision for me.
Mhm.
Alcohol, we didn't mix. And I felt something telling me like, don't do it, ask for help. And it was just right away, no, 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 that's selfish. I can't do that. What will they think of me? And almost as if we give a little vulnerability, we lose everything. Like, I just gave it all away. And it's like you said, it's the exact opposite. Everyone's like, oh, I trust you more. I feel like you're real now. I can be around you more. So I think the more vulnerable we can be, and not woe is me, but like when we need to just let it be known, like, hey guys, I'm struggling right now. I need you guys to come alongside me. Yes, I love leading you, but leaders need a lot of support.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the new Brandon when you came out and you went through this period of redemption and growth. The truth is that when we let go, not everybody's going to be on our team.
Hmm.
There's going to be people who preferred the old you and don't understand the new you. There's going to be people who you don't feel like you fit in. And there's going to be some people who might not trust it. And, so when you come out of it, when you're trying to have this new thing, I could imagine there would be people that are like, well, I'm not going to invest in you. You let me down before. How do you reconcile, being authentic to the new you, honoring the new you, knowing that others aren't always going to support you. Some people may not buy into it. They may think you're lying, and kind of get into this new stage and find your new circle.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's so true, right? And so I think that's where consistency comes into play. And I understand it. Like with what happened with me and my incident and where I went and all these different things, it was like I totally get it. Like I in fact I sometimes share the very first time when I got released. I used to give a lot of pitching lessons and coach kids. I just love doing that. And I just didn't feel worthy of it anymore. I just didn't. When they asked me to do it for the first time, my first thing I wanted to say was, well, do they know my background? Do they know this? Do they know I'm not? And people are like, it's okay. Like they know who you are now, and that's okay. And so, but it takes time. Like, again, if I would have walked out of those gates and said, I'm back, open up the doors for me, people would be like, wait a second, buddy, you got to earn some trust back. And I think recognizing that and not kind of being so self-centered to throw yourself back in, like, what do you mean I'm back and I'm out and all these doors should be open for me? It's like, no, humbly one step at a time. And then all of a sudden more doors open. And if you're faithful in this little thing, be it the job or the relationship and I had relationships that need to be restored. And I couldn't just come out and just shove it down their throat. I had to just rebuild and rebuild the trust. And we're 20 years down the road. And there are some amazing redemption stories, in particular with my kiddos and my family, and just so awesome. But like, there was some hard times, and there was some me having to put away my pride and ego and go, I get it. Like, you're not there yet. I understand that. And I've been super blessed with the redemption, but like, it didn't happen overnight. And specifically with certain relationships, it was like, okay. And for me, again, I keep mentioning faith. Like, I just had to keep praying, just keep going to God and going, okay, your timing. And sometimes I tried to push, and people were like, dude, step back, relax, like it'll happen on the right timing. And I'm like, no, I want to make it happen. And so being able to step back and just understand where people are coming from, right? Like, I understand that. I understand your hesitation with this in my background. And unfortunately, 20 years later, it still pops up. I mean, people, oh, you remember, what that guy, you know what he did, and it's like, oh, that hurts. I'm really trying hard now, but okay, I understand it's not going to be for everybody. And I think you're right. I think people want to see authenticity, and that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, we've all seen it. You're humble and you're authentic for a little bit, and then get back on your feet, and it's like, oh, I got this again. And I think we all need reminders, but just the reminder of, what, you've recovered, but not everybody's going to be for that. But the ones who are, pour into them. Like, really just look and go, here's what's in my sphere of influence right now. Here's who I'm trying to help. Here's who I'm trying to encourage. And that's my prayer every day. Before I walk into the gym, before I get on the podcast with you, it's like, please just allow me to encourage one person with my story, with a smile, with a kind word, whatever it is. And I'm so far from perfect. I still screw up all the time, but I find the most peace when I'm just going, okay, I'm looking outward. Who can I encourage? And then as soon as I start looking inward, it's like, oh, I'm getting a little bit off kilter again. So I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but like, really just trusting and being consistent and understanding you've got to kind of earn that back. You really do. You can't force that on people.
Yeah. So to kind of tack on to this, you talked about humility, you talked about personal responsibility. I would love to get your take on boundaries, boundaries of our time, boundaries of our values. People try to creep into our boundaries, and it could be on a personal level of being like, no, just come on out and just one drink, it won't mean it. Or again, giving up who you are. I know for me, a big one is time. Like, I like to go to bed early. I like to get up early, and that's a boundary. And people are like, oh, just come on out. And I'm like, no. And people don't always understand it. So how do you professionally, stand in your boundaries to honor yourself and what you need to do, and at the same time maintain relationships? Because I think a lot of people struggle with boundaries.
They do, and I do too, Claire. Honestly, because as I said before, what an honor to be asked to be on a podcast or be asked to come speak somewhere. All these things that I just, again, when I go back to that dark rock bottom time, could have never imagined. And so you want to say yes to everything, you really do. But I think just being aware of how you're feeling, right? If something becomes a big stressor and I'm really anxious about it, and it's just not, and then I know I'm like, I probably shouldn't do that. Like I'm not going to be at my best, and I'm going to have to say no or reschedule or set some boundaries. Another thing for me is uh, my workout's part of my therapy, and like in the morning, the coaches I lead or the people that I work with, they just know. Like in the morning, don't set a meeting for him. Don't call him. Like he might text you, but he's not going to respond. I mean, if it's emergency, obviously, but like if I didn't, and my wife and I were just having this conversation because she works as admin on our program, and I was waiting for her at the gym and she never showed up. And I said, what happened? She's like, I just couldn't put it down. I'm like, babe, you've got to do for yourself. You've got to have some boundaries where it's like, I'm going to start my day with this. If it's an emergency, I'll text you back, but it's not going anywhere. I mean, this day and age, Claire, we could sit on our phone and computer 24 hours a day and we're not getting caught up. There's something to do. So I think, yeah, those boundaries. And then if, in terms of like, being good with the relationships, I think if people can't understand that, then they're probably not someone that you really need to be tight with. And the ones who do understand it, then they get it. Those are those people in your life that you can rely on and count on. And I have to remember all the time, I just can't say yes to everything, though I want to. And if you're respectful and you're kind about it, most people I run across are very, very, very good and very understanding. I just think there's probably a few, and even sometimes there are ones that you just, you know what I mean? They're kind of like energy vampires. They just always want. And you're like, I can't do it. But I guess to answer your question more succinct is like, I kind of pay attention to like how I'm feeling inside about it. You know what I mean? If like I was fired up to get on this, I'm like, let's go. And then sometimes, and it might just be a busy season of life, I'm just feeling kind of anxious, and I look at my plate and go, okay, something's got to go. I'm not in a good spot right here. What is it? And I look and it might, who knows what it is, but just being real honest with yourself about that and with other people, and just, communication's huge. I think where there's a void in communication, negativity fills that void. So I just try to really communicate well, like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to reschedule this, or I'm not going to be available for it. And that was hard to do for a long, it still is, because I want to please people. I want to like make up for all my lost time and always be helping. And I'm like, I can't do everything. So yeah, great question on boundaries.
So true. Some of the things that I do, going back to kind of what you do, is before you say yes, knowing that if you say yes to something, you have to say no to something. So using that and weighing the checks and balances. And I've used the same thing of, I need to reschedule. I can't give you my best right now, or I can't show up as my best. And I want to be able to do that. And I think, like you said, with the open, honest, authentic communication, people respect it.
They do.
The right people. The right people.
The right people. I think that's the key. Yeah. And if they don't, then probably not the right people for it.
Exactly. Yeah. So a couple more questions and I'll let you go, because I know how busy you are and I respect your time. When you are working with these people, there are people out there right now that are listening to this, and they could have just completely come out of a failure. They made a huge misstep. They're feeling like, whether it's a personal or a professional, just it's over. There's no comeback for me. Yeah. And they are just fed up and ready to give up. What is one piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah. So first off, I can relate so much to that. I mean, I literally sat in that place thinking, there's no life after this. Like, there's just no way. Like, it can't happen, And so to be where I am now, and I always feel like you're just most prepared to help those that are going through what you went through. So based on that person that made that horrible decision, had that failure, every single time for me, it's like, hey, listen, there's a reason for this. And nobody wants to hear that right now. I totally get it. What you're going through. I'm not trying to, just sprinkle some positivity on it and go, God's got a plan for you. He does, but you're going through something really hard right now. But just don't quit. Like, and it sounds so simple, right? But it's like literally, do not give up. Just keep taking one step. Just do not, because as soon as we shut it down and we quit, and this is how I think, the enemy wins. He slowed me down. He got me out of it. I have rough days. Do not quit. Like, do not lose sight of the fact that at some point, like me right now, you're going to look back on that time and go, wow, I was pulled through that. And then, oh my gosh, it can be used for good. That worst time in my life can be used for good.
Mhm.
Absolutely, because people need it. People need more people that have been through something they've gone through. So for me, you can imagine a lot of times it shows up for me like, hey, my cousin or my son or my whoever is addicted, or they're about to go to prison, or they just got out, or now they know like that would have never been me. Maybe, hey, this guy's interested in baseball, sure, I'll help him. But now it's like, we know a guy that's been through that and he's willing to share and help. So just until you get to that point, lean on the people that have been there. Like, look at these stories. I had to do that. Like, when people would come into prison and volunteer their time, I loved and respected anyone who would do that. What an amazing thing. And I get a chance to do it now. But the ones who came in and said, I've sat where you sit, I was on the edge of my seat. I'm like, wait a minute. You've been through this and you're flourishing. You have life out there. Give it to me. Like, what do you got? And it was never anything magical. It was what we're talking about. Like, I just didn't quit. And I just was humble and I owned my mistakes. And I just kept walking out life. And before you knew it, there were some building blocks and now things are pretty good. And so, yeah, I would just encourage anyone just to look at, the lives of others who have been through some really hard things and where they are now, and just take those lessons. And I think what you'll find is, I listen to a lot of self-help podcasts and I love all that stuff. The core values are pretty similar in most of those people. They really, really are. Just consistency, routine, not giving up. So yeah, I know that was long-winded, but just do not give up hope. Do not quit, and keep looking to others, especially those that have been through what you're going through. And you'll find someone. Like, if you're vulnerable enough, you will.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that's it.
So, you have so much. You're speaking, you're, guiding your youth, doing so many things. So talk to us a little bit and share what's next for Coach Puffer.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I feel like I never know. There's always stuff that pops up, but at the core of it, it's really just showing up well for our baseball community. Our GPS is the name of our program. It's really my main thing. Like, I really, still to this day, have no idea. With my background, all these things, it shouldn't be me. It was just one of these things that God just kept growing, and I just was faithful. And so it's here. We have it. Some days it's frustrating and you get anxious about it. Those are the things that have been on my plate lately. But it's like, I just need to show up well for them. And to do that, I really need to take care of myself and continue to, for me, my routine of working out and staying in prayer and reading things that challenge me, and not just vegging out on TV, which at the end of the day, I want to do sometimes.
I hear you.
So, yeah, for me, it's continue to grow this program, the baseball community, because it allows us to watch kids. We just had a young man get drafted a couple of days ago, and just watching these young men come through and have success in the game, that just was so good to me, that I love so much. I feel like will always be a part of my life. And then apart from that, it's just continuing to be vulnerable and transparent with my story, right? If I get asked, if I get an invitation and it works in the schedule, just be available. And so I don't really plan all that out. I don't seek it, or like, I probably maybe should be a little better, more like Marcus. He's awesome at it. But I just like, when the opportunities arise, just be available. And I think for me to be available for people, whether it be like a speaking engagement or just a chance meeting at the gym where someone needs encouragement that day, then I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself and I'm staying in a good space mentally. And so for me to do that, I'm telling you, Clay, stuff like this is huge for me. It's like, give it away, talk about it, try to encourage someone else. And this whole time we're talking, I'm not worried about all the things I've been stressing about, because we're trying to encourage other people. And I think if I stay in my purpose of trying to be a vessel to other people and encourage, then I'll keep getting lifted up, and I've got great support. So showing up well as a coach, showing up well as an encourager in my life, whether that's, on the schedule or not, every day we have an opportunity to encourage someone. We'll walk in the grocery store and I'll go, all right, then, competition. Let's see who can get the most smiles back today. And she's like, you're going to win. I'm like, no. And it's just trying to be a light in a dark place, I think is what I'm trying to do.
So much.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
I always made myself a promise, because I'm here because people open doors for me. And I just always promise myself, if there's somebody that's willing to do the work, I'm not going to put a price tag on it. If I can help them, I'm going to help them, because
Yes.
we have to do that. And we have to, open those doors. We have to support each other. We have to be kind. And if you live in that level of integrity, and if you walk in that purpose, you're always going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love that.
Brandon, this has been amazing. I have one final question for you. When you're sitting where you sit today, going through everything you've gone through, how do you define success for yourself now?
I define success for myself now in if I am living in my purpose, right? I truly believe if I have the opportunity to wake up and there's breath in my lungs, there's still a plan and a purpose for me. I really believe that. And so my first prayer every morning is show me my plan and my purpose today and help me encourage one person. So if I have lived that out, if some days are easier than others, some are a struggle, but if I have encouraged at least one person and I at least on the lookout to be an encourager, that's success for me now. I mean, it really is. And I had success in my career and all those things. And we talked about earlier, the peace and joy weren't there. And so peace and joy for me comes from just encouraging other people and just continuing to be faithful in whatever that calling is every day.
Fantastic. Well, Brandon, it has been a true honor. Your lessons, your story, your journey is truly inspiring. And I know that you are impacting lives. Continue to do this. And again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with us today.
My pleasure, Claire. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Brandon just has so many amazing things. I could just envision when he's telling the story of sitting in his jail cell that first night and those doors, that cell closing and taking a deep breath in the fear, in the shame, in the humility of being like, all right, I got myself here. What am I going to do? That idea of personal responsibility, owning it, being like, all right, I took the actions. This is what I did. And how am I learning from it and going forward? He talked a lot about humility. And man, it is so hard to do that. But how much we grow when we get knocked down and truly realize and have that moment of being truly human and the power that that can bring us. So, whether it's taking a job that we once thought was beneath us, having to apologize for hurting another person, that we never thought we would have to do. And in his case, coming back and knowing that he gave up this whole dream and having to start at square one. When you look at a misstep like that and how he rebuilt it and uses that as a place of remembrance, but not of defining who he is. We talked about the importance of boundaries and knowing that you're going to change. You have to take that in, allow it to change, and remember that you get to write the next chapter and you get to write the ending to your story. So I just think this is an amazing story of triumph, of grit, of honesty, of personal ownership, and just a reminder that we can really be at crossroads. We can think there is no way out. We can think it's never going to get any better. And the reality is, it's not over unless you decide it is. So I implore you to share this episode with others because we're all fighting battles. We all are living in our own personal prisons. And sometimes this message, you sharing this message, can be the key to unlocking the strength and the freedom inside. So thank you so much for being here. I'm Clara Capano, and we'll see you next time for our next episode of Clarity in Action.